welcome back to the Christmas Confection Countdown on the Busy Bug Homestead channel. So we are up to night number 9 and I am so excited to be getting through all these desserts. I have been having so much fun and I haven't had to start drinking yet, so clearly it's going well for, well, at least for me. Hopefully you've been enjoying this so far. If you have been watching and following along since day one, we've made some really good desserts so far and I'm pretty excited to find out what's going to be on night number 9 right here. All right, so let's see what we got for tonight. Looks like we have a maple bacon Napoleon. All right, so when I decided that I wanted to do a Napoleon, I didn't want to do just the basic Napoleon, so I kind of tried to figure out flavors that I would find interesting that I've never seen on a Napoleon, and maple bacon just kind of came up, because who doesn't love maple anything or bacon? Personally, I think it's gonna be a fantastic idea. It may be a terrible idea, I don't really know. But I mean, you could take puff pastry, it can be savory or sweet, so I'm kind of hoping these flavors work out well. So we're going to make a maple bacon Napoleon, and pretty much what that's gonna consist of is I'm going to need puff pastry, which I magically already have because at this time of the year, I just always have puff pastry fresh made. I like to make mine fresh. You can buy yours at the grocery store if you prefer the grocery store version. It does take a little bit of time to make puff pastry, so I typically keep some on hand around now just in case I have extra pie fillings, or like I have my extra pie filling from the other night, I could turn it into turnover, so I have pastry, puff pastry just hanging out, waiting to be used for something delicious. And so we're gonna need the puff pastry, which I've already have, and I will also show a little footage of how I make the puff pastry, but I'm not gonna go into ridiculously long detail because it does take a while. It's a lot of repetitive folding, but the basic concept, I filmed the basic concept. I'm thinking puff pastry on the bottom, some really pretty dots of maple pastry cream, and then sprinkle bacon, and then just layer until we get to the layers desired for our Napoleon. So let's get started with this. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about our ingredients for the pastry cream before we move on over to the stove. So what I have here is some whole milk. I have brown sugar, butter, cornstarch, some vanilla, and then pure maple syrup. And that's very important. It can't be the imitation like Mrs. Butterworth type maple syrup. You need to have pure maple syrup for this recipe. And then I have egg yolks mixed in with my whole eggs. All of this will be listed down below, of course. I just put them all in the same bowl because they go in the same step. So pretty much what we're going to be doing is working quickly to make our pastry cream. Just like some of the other desserts we've made, anytime we are adding our eggs into anything hot and tempering them in, we want to make sure we're working very quickly with our whisk to not scramble our eggs. So pastry cream can be a little intimidating, little bit. I was intimidated for a while. But it's going to be a beautiful dessert. Hopefully the flavor is going to be exactly what I'm picturing. I looked at a lot of recipes for maple pastry cream and regular pastry cream, and I kind of like came up with my own version of what's going on here. So, because I wanted a more like amped up maple flavor. So we're going to move on over to the stove and get started on the pastry cream. While the pastry cream is cooling, because it does take a while to cool down, that's when we will do our bacon and our puff pastry. Okay, so what I have found to be the key with working with pastry cream is to have everything 100% prepared before you get ready to start. So you're not scrambling around to try and find something like a whisk when things are starting to really heat up. So I already have my ice bath prepared because once this comes off the heat, it's going to have to go directly into an ice bath. I have my whisk, I have a sifter, and I'm going to be using the beaters to make sure I get a smooth consistency for my eggs and my sugars and cornstarch, because I don't have the hand strength anymore to whisk as much as I need to whisk to get that done. So I'm going to utilize the beaters because I have the technology. Why not use it? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my eggs set up, because once the milk goes in and it starts to boil, I want to make sure this is ready to go for the hot milk to go into. For this stage, what I'm going to be doing is sifting in my cornstarch and then adding in my maple syrup, because I do not want to keep my maple syrup on the heat any longer than I have to. So once it goes back on the heat for its final cook to get it thick, that's the only heat I want the maple syrup to get in contact with. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm going to start sifting in our cornstarch. The reason we're sifting is because it can get kind of lumpy. If you worked with cornstarch before, you can see all those little lumps in there. We do not want those lumps to cause any texture in our eggs. All right, so we're gonna give it its final mix up with the cornstarch here before we add our maple. So our eggs are looking nice and incorporated and smooth. I'm going to set this to the side and we're gonna get started with our milk as soon as I clean this up. All right, so now we're gonna get going on our milk. And to do this part, what we're going to do is we're going to add our cold milk to our pan. And our brown sugar is also going to go into our pan. Make sure all that brown sugar gets in there. And I'm going to turn the heat on about a medium low. On my electric stove, I am sitting at like a 3. What we're looking for is it to just come to a boil. All right, so we are at a boil. It hasn't started like foaming up, but I want to catch it before it actually starts puffing. So I'm going to take this from its heat and I'm going to slowly start whisking this and just stream it in and whisk, 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 whisk. You never want to let it stop moving. If it stops moving, it'll scramble those eggs. And we're starting to thicken up. This is the point now where I'm going to put it back on the heat and let it finish cooking. Keep whisking. Get all that in there. Ooh, and we're gonna go quickly with this. All right, that is looking good. Doesn't take much more on the heat, just a little bit. Yeah, it looks beautiful. I'm going to add in our butter and our vanilla. We are going to mix that until all of that butter is completely gone, melted in. We are going to put it on our ice bath. I'm going to take it off of this whisk. Put that to the side for now. Get our beautiful pastry cream put into this clean bowl. Now I have a piece of plastic wrap here I'm going to put on top. We want to make sure our plastic wrap makes contact with the surface of the pastry cream so we do not form a skin on there. And then we are going to pop this right into our ice bath. And here it will sit until it is completely cool. All right, so my puff pastry has been completely rolled out and it is beautiful. A little wrinkly, but it's fine. What I'm going to do is, I saw on, I want to say it was this newest season of the Food Network Christmas Challenge, where he made these little squares and then he baked them with a sheet tray on top of them. I want to try that. So I'm going to take my little cutter with the little edges on it, and I'm going to cut out some of these squares. I cannot remember if he docked them, but I'm going to dock them just in case, and that just means poke little holes in them so that they don't explode in the oven. So I want to get us a nice delicate little Napoleon. I don't want to make the whole Napoleon cake. I have this rolled out to about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little smaller. Yeah, so it's about 1/4. All right, so I have all of the puff pastry I'm going to bake up right now. This puff pastry is destined to get the filling left over from our pear cherry pie. It is about to become turnovers because I don't need that many Napoleons, but I do need turnovers in my life. So I'm going to actually be making turnovers while this is baking. But I'm going to place the parchment on here and I'm going to try what he did in that episode. We just stuck the sheet pan on there so they didn't get too high and baked them just like this. And that is exactly how I'm putting them in the oven. Fingers crossed, let's hope for the best. I want a nice thin layer, but I want it to be nice and flaky. All right, I'm gonna put this in the oven and then we'll be back to fill them. All right, so our Napoleon bits are all ready to be put together. So I took my pastry cream and put it in a piping bag with a star tip. We're gonna get a little fancy with it and see if we could do something that would be served at a fine dining establishment if they were going to be having a maple bacon Napoleon. I don't know. I kind of feel like if I was to present this to a fancy French pastry college, they'd be looking at me like, I don't know about that. But let me tell you right now, my kitchen smells delightful. So I made a maple bacon. I just bought maple bacon and I fried that up, and it's not super crunchy. I didn't want it to be super crunchy because I don't want like a ridiculously hard crunch inside of our delicate, light, fluffy Napoleon. And then I have my layers here, which baked up beautifully. Look at that layering. So I've got my layers, and they were all cut with the same cookie cutter, but some of them kind of baked differently. But I got the ones that were the most similar in size. And I'm going to pipe and put some bacon on, and then pipe and then put some bacon on. And I thought instead of doing like a chocolate or a glaze on top, we would just do a little powdered sugar and then some bacon. All right, so let's go with starting our stack. These here, so I'm going to just take a little bit of my pastry cream, pipe all the way around. We take a little bit of our bacon, let's stick that in there. Like a little hidden surprise inside of our Napoleon. And we'll put our next layer on and give it a little push down. Go. All right. And then a little bit of our pastry cream. You can also use whipped cream if you prefer. I don't have any on hand. You can use pastry cream now. Just a little bit on top, little swirl. And then we'll take one of our bigger pieces of bacon. If I have any I didn't like super crunch up, like this little piece here. Pop that right on top. Maybe get him a little friend to go on the other side. All right, so I'm not really sure what the best way to eat this is going to be, but I'm just gonna try it. So I'm gonna try and get like a little of our cream and a little of our pastry. Definitely want a little of that bacon in there. It's gonna be messy, it's okay. You got a little bit of everything. That is delicious. If you only make one thing off this list, try the maple bacon stuffed puff pastry that I just kind of threw together here. I know it's not your typical Napoleon, but my goodness, it's good. It's like the maple bacon gave it just a little bit more maple flavor, but it still got the saltiness of the bacon in there. Oh, it's good. This was a good decision. I'm glad I put this on the list. I was a little skeptical when I decided I was gonna do this one because I have never seen a maple bacon Napoleon before. It was a good choice. It was a very good choice. I'm very happy with this. I think I would be safe this week if I was challenging anybody else because this was pretty, that's good. So if you like maple bacon, this is definitely a go, I would think. And if you're following along with me and you would like to make a maple bacon Napoleon, please find me on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to see how you style it and what you come up with. We're using the hashtag 12 Days of Christmas Confections Countdown. I'll be posting my pictures under that hashtag as well if you're looking for them. And thank you so much for joining us today on this wonderful challenge that we had today. I believe it was day 9. And we will see you next time. Bye.